Welcome to our discussion on the new guidance for the Exceeding National Quality Standard. I'm Dr. Jennifer Cartmel from Griffith University, and I'm with Professor Jennifer Sumption from Charles Sturt's University. Jennifer and I work closely with government, ASEQA and sector experts to develop the criteria for exceeding. This criteria will help explain for education and care services what it really means to exceed practice in the sector. The exceeding criteria really means to go above and beyond just meeting the standards. And I think that we've got a lovely good examples that we're able to use. You know, when the government, ASEQA and the sector experts were together with us, it was exciting to hear about the different descriptions that people had about what exceeding looked like in family daycare, outside school hours care and long day care. And I think that the richness of those discussions around what exceeding looked like really inspired us to think about what kind of criteria really we could share with others to help us understand what going above and beyond, not just meeting standards, could actually look like.
And another thing that's really exciting is that the guidance for those themes have come from the terrific practice of high quality services from all around Australia. So we can have a lot of confidence that they're meaningful themes. And of course they've also been reinforced by the research literature as well.
Get your hands, put that one down there, and roll.
Things are done with such intentionality when you embed things, and I think that thinking is really important, that everybody contributes and understands why certain practices occur in a certain way. So I think embedding not only is about your practices, but it's about the thinking that people have around the practices, having a continuity and a connection between everyone as they work together.
When services are thinking about embedded practice and how they might articulate that, I think one of the important things for them to do is to think about how their service philosophy might play out and how the service philosophy connects with the standards and also with policies and procedures and the approved learning framework. So there's a lot of tying together of different threads, but services can do that. They can weave those together in a way that feels right for them and enables them to work towards what it is that they're particularly wanting to achieve.
And that same weaving occurs for the themes in the exceeding criteria. Theme number 1 around that embeddedness of practice is so connected to theme number 2 around critical reflection, because you can't actually achieve that embeddedness without engaging in critical reflection.
I totally agree, and it's actually a bit of a challenge, isn't it, to try to tease them apart. So I'm hoping that people will feel really confident about looking at the 3 themes holistically and not feeling that they've got to totally tease them apart and work through them bit by bit by bit. But it's almost like living the ethos that's sitting beneath the themes.
Yes. I'm pretty passionate that critical reflection that practice is informed by critical reflection. That's something that I'm very interested in. And I'm really interested in that members of your staff team come together to actually think about why and how you do things, what underpins your the ways of doing things, that you're just not taking things for granted. I was going to say that critical reflection really, you can occur individually and you can think about processes and reflect on what's happening for yourself, but even more it's important for you as your staff team to actually engage in critical reflection, having those conversations about why you're doing things, how you feel about them, where you're drawing your ideas from to actually inform, and you discussed that before, inform your practice is really important. And then as a staff team, thinking about how you use that information to move forward is really, really important. And when people actually engage in critical reflection around the practices and think more deeply about what they're doing, they are really exceeding their practices and their processes to make sure that they are offering the best possible experiences for children and families.
Critical reflection can be really rewarding to engage in, but I think we both know that it's not necessarily a comfortable process, not all the time, because it involves, in many cases, robust discussion, talking through points of disagreement that can become uncomfortable. And so that's why it's really important that it's based on real trust, collegiality, respect for different points of view. I don't think you can have critical reflection unless you feel confident that your service can offer that basis of trust for those really honest discussions.
And that's where I see theme 1 around that embedding of the processes and the practice, and also that meaningful engagement with colleagues and family and the wider community. That's drawn into theme 2 when you talk about building that community of trust so that you can actually engage in critical reflection. It really is hard to separate the themes into discrete parts, though we need to talk about them each as discrete parts just to understand them in more depth. But understanding them discretely and joining them together is a really important part of this process.
Shall we move on and talk about theme 3, that practice is shaped by meaningful engagement in families and or the community?
Yes, I think that theme is really important because you actually need that critical reflection. You need that engagement to actually kind of bounce off. You know, your own identity as a service is perceived through that connection with families.
Yes, so for me, meaningful engagement certainly means respect and recognition for families, that they really are the primary people involved, or they're the most important people in terms of nurturing children's learning and development and well-being. So it's so important that as educators we build really respectful and responsive and reciprocal relationships, because it's only through those kinds of relationships that we're really going to be able to understand the hopes and aspirations and priorities, and also the concerns that families and communities may have for their children.
Children are likely to feel more connected and confident in the space when there's that meaningful engagement with families and that wider community. And so when they feel confident, they're actually able to transfer the learning and the engagement that they have in that one space into other aspects of their lives.
And belonging is so important, isn't it? And I think that when families as well as children feel a sense of belonging, they're much more likely to sustain their engagement with the service. And when you have that sustained engagement and sustained relationships, that's when really terrific things can happen.
One of the exciting things about being at this point in the National Quality Standard process is that we've really built on the past, and we know that people can achieve this criteria. We've actually used people's examples of exceeding the standards to develop this criteria, and so people can also be reassured that it is very achievable for their service to aspire or to be already achieving those standards. But that notion that you need to think very carefully at an early stage about how you're going to, and plan how you're going to get there in this quality assessment process.
And to be patient and to realise that it's not something that you can do in a rush, and to know that it's going to take a lot of hard work, but to know that it will be also very exciting.
It really will be important for services to be cognizant of the exceeding criteria as they prepare for their assessment and rating visit, and as they have the conversations with authorised officers. Just knowing what the exceeding criteria is as well as the meeting criteria will be really important to their confidence to articulate their practice.
So there are so many exciting things about this new documentation, but I think the most exciting thing of all is that it's the same documentation that educators, the service providers and the authorised officers will use. So it means that people can all speak the same language, all be on the same page, and it will be so much easier to have those important conversations about what educators are seeing as important in their service and how they're working towards achieving their goals.
And I'd encourage you all to download the materials from the ASEQA website. Have a look at the summaries about the exceeding criteria in the first instance, and then go and have a look at the criteria that's written at the end of each of the standards as listed in the documentation that is there for you. I also encourage you to have a look at how easy it is. It's been colour coded, there's little icons to highlight parts of the document, so it's really important for you to read it and share it with your colleagues.